Back from where you parked your cars this morning, there was a prison camp. In fact, it was the first open prison in New Zealand. And the prisoners that were sent to that camp, well, it was their job to clear that bush and scrub out of the way and prepare the land for the planting of trees. In fact, most of the forests that you folks see between Rotorua and Taupo, including this one in front of you, were originally started using prison labour. And it was a gang of those prisoners that actually came across this clearing. But again, what they saw 100 or so years ago is not what you're seeing now. At that time, in this rock formation, all that was here was a beautiful clear hot water spring with a little ledge about so high around it. You get a pretty good idea of what she would have looked like then, but on a much smaller scale if you look across at that rock formation over there. Now if you look very carefully, you see a scrubby looking little plant just in shadow at the moment, literally growing out of the rock. Now that's Manuka, or New Zealand tea tree, and round its base there's another little ledge about so high which marks the edge of what was then another hot spring. Now 100 years ago, prison life in New Zealand was pretty primitive. Those prisoners were over half a day's bumpy ride by horse from Rotorua. They didn't have access to any of the luxuries of life, and they certainly didn't have access to constant hot water. And some of them thought it'd be a clever idea to bring the camp's dirty washing down to this large hot water spring that they had found here. That would save them the bother of gathering firewood to boil water to do their dirty washing in. So one morning, a group of them were down here, busy dipping their dirty clothes into this hot water spring. They pulled them out, scrubbed them up with some soap, dipped them back in to rinse them off, and got one heck of a fright. What actually happened was this hot spring erupted. Their washing disappeared that way, and they disappeared that way. And we now know that what that soap did was to set off a chain reaction. It took the tension off the colder water, which is at the very top of the natural reservoir below the geyser itself. That then allowed the superheated steam and water from further down to force its way up through those cooler levels and out through the top in an eruption. And that's what we're going to do this morning. But instead of using soap, we now use a product called surfactant, which has been chemically engineered to do exactly the same thing, but to leave no residuals in the environment. And once I've put it into the vent of the geyser, if all goes to plan, in just a few moments, we should see some bubbles starting to form at the top of the vent here. As that hot water comes through, all this will be pushed out, and we'll see the water start to surge as she builds up into that first full eruption.